Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come and Red October has officially arrived. The stages are set and the Phillies are set to face off with the Mets in their opening round of the playoffs as the Mets have earned the right to take them on. I'm here to break down in this video why I'm frustrated about about too much respect being handed by the Mets and why this Phillies team should not fear anybody. Now, as we mentioned, we did see the official postseason picture being painted that here in the NLDS that the Phillies and Mets are set to take place. It's kind of unbelievable when I fully think about this, but I keep seeing the stat float around that this is the first playoff matchup between these two teams. So there's obviously a ton of familiarity between these two NL East opponents. We remember back in the 2008 years how they were dogging it out for that divisional run and making the playoffs then, but obviously both teams in a quite different situation. Now, as far as actually making their way to the playoffs, it was kind of an impressive victory by the Mets that it was a Pete Alonso 3-run home run in the ninth inning to ultimately lift them, led to a 4-2 victory. For the Mets, they did look like they were dead in the water down to their last 6 outs and ultimately found a way. And that's kind of been the theme with this Mets team is they do have a bit of that team of destiny feel, and I understand that that is why people are concerned. But here's where I'm here to say. I'm just looking at this as a pure neutral fan here, even though I am a Phillies guy, no doubt about it. I just think the Phillies are way more talented from top to bottom, and there's a couple key areas I want to dig on why they have the advantage here. Now, first, I want to put a little more history into context here and then want to acknowledge how close it is between these two opponents here. In the last 100 games between the Phillies and Mets, they're directly 50-50 on the season. And then the last 1,000 games, 500 and 500. So a pretty healthy rivalry here as neither one of them have truly got the upper hand. There's kind of been different eras where each team has been in the driver's seat for production here. And honestly, I'd point to this Phillies team as one firmly in that seat right now. That yes, this Mets team does have that look about them. Yes, they have their OMG signs. They've got all their little things that they have going on within that locker room right here. But this Phillies team has been there, done that, and they're ready. That there is a different mindset within this Phillies team for this season that I don't think has gotten enough attention. That we saw them be this fun, young, trending team like the Mets are. And we also saw them come up short in the playoffs in those particular situations, not getting over that World Series hump. I think the Mets are going to get a wake-up call. I think it was great news that opening series went 3 games. They had to go through their pitchers, put a lot of more wear and tear on each of their bodies. And I do think that's something that's going to play a factor in this game. I think there's been this debate for the rest versus rust situation when you do have that bye week. Obviously, the Braves have thrown a hissy fit about having the time off, and clearly that has not mattered to them as they've been eliminated in both fashions now. And kind of felt a little strange to see another team sending the Braves home in the playoffs, not named the Phillies. But ultimately, I think for this Phillies team, it was a great thing to have those days off to rest up their bodies. We know who this team is as a baseball team at this point. They have found their identity as clearly as any team in the MLB, and they're going to put that in full display against this Mets team. Now, a couple factors that I do want to get in as far as the driving force for why I have belief. I first want to start out with the head man himself, that being Bryce Harper. And shout out to our guy, Luke Arcani, who wrote out this article on Crossing Broad, detailing his outlook and why he's so confident in this Phillies team. And he writes about Bryce Harper's success against the Mets. And as Luke writes, big surprise here. If Bryce Harper plays like Bryce Harper, the Phillies will win the series. Really bold take here, but it's true. Bryce Harper went 14 for 47, which is a .298 batting average against the Mets this season with 4 home runs, 9 RBIs, and a .638 slugging percentage. Nobody in the world wants to win a championship for their city more than Bryce Harper does. He talked about it Thursday afternoon on the WIP afternoon show. We've seen what Bryce has done in the postseason the last 2 years, and it has to start with him. He's going to put one in the seats on Saturday. And the Harper quote that he gave on WIP is, quote, "I can't imagine playing anywhere else. It's the greatest place to play. It's the best fan base in all of sports. Everybody sees that, and everybody is going to see that Saturday when the bank turns red." Now, we know who Bryce Harper is as a when the lights get bright, Bryce Harper's at his best, and I expect nothing different in this playoff run. He had an awesome sit down with Jeff Passan, kind of talking about his outlook, how badly he wants this championship, and why he's such a perfect fit for Philadelphia. That really meant a lot to kind of see him read these things. He does play the cards better than any athlete I've ever seen as far as being one with the fan base, whether it is the Wawa headband, the fanatic cleats, or the arm sleeve, whatever he's rocking. He finds a way, and I do think that the missing thing in his entire resume as a baseball player is still that World Series championship, and the Phillies may not have a better chance to get it done than this particular season. Now, a couple other factors that I did want to dive into. There has been a lot of buzz about this 7-6 records of the Phillies and Mets this year. But one key factor that is not included in that statistic there is the Taijuan Walker situation. We've been front and center talked all about what a disaster Taijuan was. Obviously, a guy who formerly played for the Mets and has had those opportunities. The Mets fans are well familiar with him out there as well. But when you take away those performances, and Taijuan won't step within 1,000 feet of this Phillies team come playoff time, come the rest of the postseason here, that it's a little different story here. So to pull up those exact stats here, I have here once again from Luke that the Phillies are 7-3 in non-Taijuan starts against the Mets this year. Zack Wheeler only faced the Mets one time this season, but he was really good in that start, going 7 strong and allowing just 1 run. Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez were both solid against this Mets this year as well. Aaron Nola faced them twice, one start being a complete game shutout and the other being 4 1/3 while allowing 6 earned runs. Not great there. I really feel great about where this pitching staff is at. Now I'm going to dive a little deeper into this next video dropping tomorrow morning, but I will go a little deeper into the pitching matchups here. The Phillies going with Christopher Sanchez in game 2, while the Mets are making a bit of a surprise starter for the opening game here. So we'll go deeper into that, but want to focus on the Phillies angle from here. And Luke continues on talking about the Phillies bullpen running laps around the Mets. Jeff Hoffman, Matt Strahm, and Carlos Estevez have combined for 10 innings of shutout ball against the Mets this year. I think people forget that the Phillies have 5 really good arms in their bullpen, and there's a case for Jose Ruiz being the 6th go-to guy. So a great note there, and I do think that this year specifically, that is the difference maker in this Phillies team. I feel more confident about this bullpen than I have in either of the other 2 runs that we've seen. There is no Craig Kimbrell with his arm hanging on by a thread that you just know that home run is going way out the stadium the second it comes off it. There is no Achilles heel in this bullpen. You're not holding on for your life. You don't got to flex Ranger out to that closer spot in certain situations. They have a versatile collection of arms that can pitch in different situations, high leverage guys. An example that I would make here is let's think back to 2 years ago when kind of this run was beginning to brew for this Phillies team, when Jose Alvarado essentially was the guy that he was looked at as one of their best relief pitchers, a closer in a lot of situations. Now look at Jose Alvarado today. Not a guy who makes the list of top arms in the bullpen, and that is way more about the other arms that have been added than much regression in Jose. Yes, he has not been the best version of himself for most of the season, but you better believe we're going to see him in some playoff situations, and I do think it's really, I guess, a convincing case to make about how many other options that there are. Even a guy like Tanner Banks, I think, is a huge stride forward. We'll see him in some, mid-tier innings that aren't quite the high leverage opportunities, but this bullpen is the best that it has been really throughout the past couple of decades, and certainly in this playoff run here. There is another name that I do want Phillies fans to get familiar with before this series kicks off, and a guy that I can guarantee we will all know quite well by the end of it, and that is Jesse Winker here. Jesse Winker is a guy who very much, as KFC quote tweets our guy Luke Arcaney here, saying Jesse Winker is the number one. If he's on your team, you love him, and if he's not, you hate him. Those are the best guys in sports. I do agree with the sentiment here, and I'll kind of approach things with I hate Jesse Winker and will for this series, but I also would absolutely love if he came back next year in a Phillies jersey. This is a guy who stirs the pot as good as just about any baseball player that I've seen. In that series with the Brewers, he was calling out, he apparently met in the parking lot by one of the Brewers players for screaming at him, spiking his helmet on home plate. This is going to be a guy that Citizens Bank Park absolutely eats up, and I'm going to be here for every second of it. But for what it's worth, the Phillies team. So I'm thrilled about what this overall means. I'm very excited about what this team can produce, and I think it happens right from day one, that we see this team show their intentions, that they know they mean business from the opening portion of this series. I think from game 1, there's a statement made from Bryce Harper and company, and ultimately this leads to an awesome series win. So everybody, let's stop fearing this New York Mets team, that I will not stand for a New York major market team acting like they're the Moneyball A's, having all of these expectations, the little engine that could, this underrated story, the New York Mets, and they're about to get whacked out of the playoffs by our Philadelphia Phillies. So let me know if you're with me in the comments. Are you as confident as I'm feeling? Drop your thoughts below, and I'll be back with you tomorrow talking about the pitching matchup specifically. Peace.